Welcome, welcome, welcome yet
We're
again to
back.
the New Ogden Cinema Podcast. Yeah.
We're
Today's
back.
sponsor, Great White Pottery, as always, one of our greatest patrons and sponsors.
Yeah. And
And
where can people find the Great White Pottery? Like on
go to Facebook and type in Great White Pottery. You'll find lots of great videos, honestly. Like there's reveals, there's product that's in stock, all sorts of great stuff on Facebook. Great White Pottery, easy to find.
do you do orders through Facebook? Is that how you do the orders?
You can message there, and yeah, there's some stuff that's listed. Yeah,
Okay, cool. Yeah. And then we're also sponsored by my brand of hot sauce, tasty as fuck hot sauce. Um, I started making hot sauce because not only was I a big fan of it, but the other reason was is because I thought maybe perhaps I could make a little bit of money to go to make movies. So the hope was is to have a product to sell, and with that money we could go make movies. So if you're looking for tasty as fuck hot sauce, if you're a person who's really digs it, this is our Carolina Reaper one. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook under Tasty as Fuck Hot Sauce. Fuck is a misspelled word with PH on it. PHUCK. You can also find us on TikTok. It's Tasty dot as fuck hot sauce, or you can find us on Etsy, order online, and ship pretty much anywhere in the. Well, I've shipped to Canada. That's the only country I've shipped outside of the U.S. So if you're in Canada or the United States, I got you covered.
got you, Chad.
Yeah,
Anywhere you go,
there
we
you go.
got you covered.
But anyways, but hey man, how's it been? But it's been a minute since we
Yeah,
last
yeah,
last chatted. It looks like you're on a healthy beach out there. Is that your own
yep.
photo?
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of my escapes on the West Coast and the Pacific Northwest. So it's always beautiful. I'm not gonna tell you all where this one is because I'm gonna keep it a secret as long as I can. But enjoy the Pacific Northwest, and I'm sure you'll find it. But I mean, I've got some news, but nothing as cool as you do. So, do you want to kick
Yeah,
us off? Because I'm
yeah,
I'm excited, and like I said, I know Chad's waiting with bated breath out there. So,
mhm, yeah. Yeah. So I just got back from LA about 2 weeks ago. A film that I produced over the last summer called Convicts and Chocolate, which is it's a short parody film that's kind of a hero swap of Nick Cage from Con Air and well, not Nick Cage from Con Air, but sorry, Forrest Gump mixed in with like the Con Air with the movie Con Air, and we also shot it on the airplane. It was the original jailbird airplane for Con Air when they shot it out here in Utah. My wife directed it, wrote and directed the movie, and we um, sorry, I got lost. We got invited to go out to LA because there was a Hollywood International Short Film Festival that was out there, and we screened and we won best comedy.
it's awesome.
So out of the festival, had a great time, met a lot of new people, and always I still feel like the best thing out of a filmmaking event not only is getting the laurels or the awards because we all want to we all want to feel that validation for the hard work we put into the movie, but also the people you meet kind of along the way because this is certainly a thing that needs networking, right? And
Absolutely.
starts getting into kind of like who you know and when I was in college, I went to school at the University of Central Florida, but and the professors there were like, hey, well, if you ever move to LA, like here's what to do, and it was really like go out and network. That's what you're gonna do when you get there, because some of the professors were the unit production managers on like the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but she started out in catering and just networked her way into it or something, right? So
Hmm.
kind of a thing. But yeah, so we won best comedy for the festival. So now we're back, and then we've also been accepted. There's a couple of festivals here in Utah. One is called the No Fear Film Festival, and Convicts and Chocolate has been screened. We got picked up there. Also, my daughter's short film, The Socketing, has also been picked up for that same festival.
It's
I
awesome.
think that's in September. And then Frankencock got picked up for something I can't quite remember which one it was. But I do know that we will, Convicts and Chocolate will also be screening at Zepstone's Film Festival. Oh, because they do quarterly. They do quarterly festivals, and then if you win in the quarter sections, then you're in the annual part. So the movie's going to screen will be at the Capitol Theater. I don't know the dates. It's going to be in September again. But for the quarter section, we won like best screenplay, best comedy again. Um, there's like two more. There's at least one more award in there, but it was Brandy's first big win on a screenplay, and I think every writer, when you finally get that one, that's kind of like it's like yeah, I won best editing for Convicts at another fest, and I was like yeah, like editing, like because you do so long, and then it's kind of like yeah, it's nice to finally get one for one of those other parts too. So, but yeah, that's what's been going on. That's the film festival stuff with Convicts. So
It's awesome.
yeah.
Well, congratulations on all the wins. Like that's a lot of exciting stuff, and I'm glad to hear how the journey keeps progressing on that. I don't have a ton. Like I haven't had like I actually submitted to more screenplay competitions. There's a couple of big ones that are referenced often, like the Pages screenplay competition. Obviously, like Rain Dance and a few others. So it'll be a minute before I hear back on some of those. I've started getting feedback though, and that part's good. The Sundance is actually opening, and this might be interesting for you because I know you've got a couple of screenplays, and one you're going to be producing that we should talk about as well. But like the other, like the Sundance has their program where, like, yeah, you have to, I think you have to pay like $100 to enter it, and then you apply to be part of their program. But it's basically like the evolution of where, like, um, Robert Rodriguez and Tarantino, like, like in Aronofsky, it's the filmmakers program where it starts off where if you're accepted, you start off like screenwriting, and you talk about screenwriting, work with mentors who are professionals in the industry and go forward with that. And so, and then it's like the goal is to then work with like production, like up to production, right? So, because it was Paul Thomas Anderson, I think it also used it, and that's how Hard Eight came about, right? Like he workshopped the screenplay for Hard Eight as part of the screenplay part, and then when they got it to a comfortable place, they actually, I think he worked with mentors there and then worked to get it produced. So, and Hard Eight, like Ryan and I have talked about that movie for years, and it doesn't get brought up enough and isn't seen enough. It's a really cool early film from what's probably one of our underappreciated filmmakers. I mean, um,
He's
ever
got
since
new,
Boogie Nights and Magnolia, like he doesn't get the love he deserves, but he still has put out some great movies.
yeah, he's got a new movie with Leo DiCaprio coming out.
Yeah, that looks awesome. Is it one battle after another?
Something like that. Um, and yeah, I don't necessarily know that it gets talked about enough, but I think that a lot of times when people are thinking of an early Paul Thomas Anderson flick, that is kind of like Boogie Nights, Magnolia, and Heartache, kind of just gets lost in there. But it's actually a really cool flick.
Yeah,
Um, so it's kind of like when people like I've actually haven't seen some of the newest Wes Anderson movies, but I still like think the Bottle Rocket is I think it's a movie that oftentimes you'll meet people who are Wes Anderson fans and just haven't that never went back and saw his first one though.
yeah,
But,
yeah. I mean, I need to. I think the last one I've watched was Grand Budapest Hotel, and I love his style. I like it a lot, but he's made so many good movies. Like sometimes I'll go revisit them, especially with kids. Like Fantastic Mr. Fox, like that's an easy win for the kids, and it's entertaining as hell to watch even as an adult. So, or Life Aquatic is one of my favorites. Like I think that movie's just quirky and fun enough that that's one I like rewatching quite a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the so that's coming up. So anybody's interested, obviously you should look into it. It's on their website. But Sundance also has a like it's almost like a indie filmmaker community. It's more like geared towards our level because Sundance, for the most part, like it's cool they still do things like the filmmakers program I'm talking about, but like a lot of it is like when you go to the festival, it's all multi-million dollar films. It
Mhm.
doesn't really feel indie in a lot of ways. Not to, I mean, to a certain extent, it still is, but you go to a rival yet kind of sister festival like Slam Dance, and like to me, that's truly like that's indie. That's more our level because we're not getting access to multi-million dollar budgets, right? So, but the collab space is for indie filmmakers. They have a lot of stuff on there, like you can um, pay for like courses to get better in different areas and whatnot, but they do a lot of free um, like webinars and stuff that they host, and I've gone to a couple of them recently, and one was they have a what they call monthly their script club where they actually share a screenplay from a produced film that's been at Sundance. And this last month's was Beast of the Southern Wilds. And I'd actually I've seen that movie before. I saw it after it came out where it was like really the darling in the festival that year. I think it was like 2012. And I won't lie, like I did not love it like a lot of other people loved that movie. I didn't think it was I didn't hate myself for watching it, but
Yeah.
I I I didn't love it. You know, I respect the craft. But the writer and director came on and talked about the genesis of the project and how it came about and then the production and like some behind the scenes stuff. It's really interesting to hear like the process of it. And then you read the screenplay ahead of time. They give you actually suggestions of where you can rent and watch the movie as well.
Okay.
Um, and for a free resource, really, it's a really cool and unique experience where you can hear how people have done it. And I highly recommend it, especially any level. Like it's cool to read other people's stuff that's been produced. And like
Yeah.
one thing I didn't know is Beast of the Southern Wild was actually a play before it was a movie, which is actually right up my alley. Like I dig that quite a bit with my background. And a choice that they talked about when I was listening in is they were talking about how in the stage play they have an adult playing the kid in the movie, and
Mhm.
in the stage play the kid sets the dad on fire. But when it came time for the movie, they were like, when you do a play, you can get away with it because it's that level of like it's a different level of like escapism, right? And um, it's a different level of like going along with the facade of the theater, right? So
Mhm.
you're watching an adult understanding that they're playing a kid and you're going along with the journey. But to have an actual child light their dad on fire, I would agree that it's probably not don't get me wrong, like if it was like a horror movie like Hobo with a Shotgun,
Mhm.
yes, that's the choice you have to make. But if you're making an indie film darling like that movie was, like yes, that is probably the right choice from a commercial aspect to try to reach more of a wider net. So events like that are I think awesome. Like when they do stuff like that for free, to be able to read somebody else's produced screenplay
Mhm.
and see and be liberated by the words on those page, I think is a good thing, especially when you're doing a lot of writing. Um, but 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 be the experience of being, I think, in some of those rooms, like obviously they don't allow you to do self promotion, but to get access to filmmakers and hear their thought processes for free, I think is awesome. A week later, they did one with Eli Roth, which was actually a really cool. Like it wasn't as much of like a deep dive on what he's done. Like he did talk about he did talk about some of those things, but he also talked about the reality of the film industry now and what he's doing. And he's actually set up uh, his own like production company, but they're doing a version of Kicks. It's not Kickstarter, but they're doing a version of that where he's selling 10% of his production company like public stocks where you can buy into it, and then when the movies are produced, like potentially you get a piece of the profits or whatnot.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting, like buying stocks in a movie production company.
Hmm.
Ambitious as hell, but I mean, the reality of why he's doing that was like uh, we've joked, I think before too, like just the money from streaming doesn't exist, right? It's like once the physical media market really tanked, they don't filmmakers aren't making money on their films anymore like they used to, like with residuals. So I thought that was I thought that was interesting, and then also hearing like a guy who's made like movies that have been really well received, and then I haven't loved every one of his films, but I think the last up until Thanksgiving, I think the last movie I saw was when you and I went to Sundance actually, and we went down and saw Knock Knock when it came out.
Yeah.
Uh, and
I forgot he did that one.
yeah,
I didn't forget about Knock Knock, but I forgot that it was his film. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But he talked about how that movie really tanked, and it was a bummer because he thought that it was the right time and the right story. And honestly, like I I'm glad I went to that thing, but I also been thinking about that movie again and how relevant it is with society now. Like it predates me too, right? But there's a lot of there's a lot of our current climate in that movie ahead of its time, and it has Keanu Reeves, who's and young Anna de Armas, I think, too,
Yeah.
like before she really blew up. So it's interesting to hear insights, and at the end of the day, too, like all this stuff, like if it's the pursuit of something you love, like you go for it, right? But if you're going out to just make hand over fist millions of dollars making movies, like it's like hitting the lottery, and even those who've been in the industry, like I think are waking up to it and also saying it out loud, which I think it's a good thing. Like uh, everybody wants to everybody wants to make it big, but I think the the people who endure those trials, they love filmmaking for the sake of filmmaking. Like Eli Roth, it was really cool to hear him talk about his passion
Hmm.
on that. So anyway,
That's cool.
I think those free events like that are invaluable. Sundance does a lot of them. Slam Dance does them too, and just being able to hear from the professionals, and you know, and if you want to pay for services, they also have a bunch of paid services they look really awesome. I've honestly thought about the rewriting of a script because I have a really hard time with rewriting my own stuff. Um, so I've considered it heavily, and I'm still considering it. But yeah, anyway, I just thought that was interesting to share. There's a lot of cool resources out there for that.
That's cool.
So the other uh, the other thing is just like I've been watching I've been watching some interesting documentaries. Like there's one I recommend um, for you that I think it's of Gods and Monsters. It's about Phil Tippett's studio. It's on Amazon Prime,
Okay.
and basically he's like a modern version of Ray Harryhausen. He worked on and developed stop motion for the original Star Wars,
Oh, there.
like the chess stuff, and they
Hmm.
even helped I think create like creatures and whatnot. And he ended up doing like just keeps going on, and like you look at what he's done, like RoboCop. He did the stop motion for RoboCop, so the Ed 209 stuff, and they designed Ed 209. And the documentary is really cool. I don't want to give everything away. I recommend everybody check it out. They also, I learned why I love the CG in Jurassic Park, I think, and why it works best and holds up better than a lot of movies since then. Is they like Phil Tippett continued to revolutionize like stop motion to the point where
Mhm.
like when they were making Empire Strikes Back, they actually put motors into their stop motion puppets so that like when the tauntauns are running, it has a blur. So it looks like it's an actual living thing moving, like the
Right.
blur of a motion picture thing,
Yeah.
versus stop motion where it's all, and there's never a blur to it.
Hmm.
But the thing that they did with Jurassic Park is originally he thought he wanted to do like puppets, and then they're like, no, 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 it's gonna be CG. But what they did was they took those stop motion puppet skeletons and then put all the dots on them and all the like sensors in them. So they stop motion animated those skeletons and the computer picked it up. And that's what actually is in the like they
Damn.
build the framework for the CG around the stop motion puppet capture. Like
Damn.
incredible.
Yeah. Damn,
And
that's
they
cool.
talked yeah, they talk a lot about how like because they are used to performing as puppets and have studied animals, like the performers understand the movements of animals versus like computer engineers who are figuring out how to do the graphics who know none of that shit and are just
Hmm.
good at. And I went, ah,
Yeah.
that's why all those movies look still hold up really well because it's the evolution of the art form that we grew up loving as kids with like King Kong and shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really cool. And then I saw something else where they talked about modern cinematography. It's something to think about for you as you're gearing up for production. I think you should probably chat about that afterwards. But I was watching this YouTube video, and they were actually talking about they used the Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap as the example of like good cinematography, and it turns out that that movie's lensed by the same guy who did The Thing,
Oh,
right?
dang.
So when they pull up clips from The Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan, like it's actually artistically shot, at least from what he said. Like I don't remember that movie if I ever really saw it because I was kind of not in the age to watch that type of movie. But when they talked about like modern film cameras, like just have such high resolution that they absorb everything and capture every detail. So we've lost the art of like shadows and texture, I think really is
Mhm.
what he, without saying it, they were boiling it down to. And things like, um, I think of like Leon the Professional, right? I was thinking about it after that shot where he's like shooting all the guys in the beginning of the movie and he pops out of the shadows and then
Mhm.
he fades back into them and whatnot. Like to a certain extent, like could could we film that with modern cameras and modern technology? Like, could we? Sure. Do people have the knowledge of how to light a scene correctly so only that one dude
Mhm.
captures the light and everything behind him is complete darkness? I don't know the answer to that because I don't like after he talked about it, I went, yeah, you're right. Like they're just filming these films with natural lighting, no real shadow texture to the shots. And I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to share it with you because I thought it was really it made me start thinking about okay, what I want to do and what I love in filmmaking.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is interesting. I wonder if it's because also like the sensors on the cameras like just capture so much like light to a degree, and so like to have, it's easier to have darkness on film and than it is to try to keep darkness on digital, because digital is like, I mean, in the times that there's been moments where we've just lit certain things with just other cell phones.
Yeah.
Because you're shooting it on a cell phone, and so it can just capture. You know, you just don't have to pump as much light in order to get the shot that you need. Sometimes
Yeah.
that's probably a piece that's lost. I mean, I have seen Parent Trap more recently. That's probably because though, like Brandy, my wife, is a big Nancy Myers fan. That was a Nancy Myers movie, but it's also it's a very technical movie because you have one girl playing two different characters at the same time, so every shot has to be pre-planned
Yeah.
in order to make some of the gimmicks work, right? Uh, so it's a special effects film without really thinking about how it's a special effects film. So it kind of makes sense now. It's like the guy who shot The Thing also shot Parent Trap because they're both big special effects movies in that sense, but without the one being like the spectacle of special effects, even though it does take uh, creative mindset to do a movie where one person is playing two people. I mean, we've done it. Every time I see it, though, I'm always going like, God, I wish we did one of those, and I always forget. Like we have a whole short film series that we did with me fighting me throughout the whole thing. So,
Yeah.
but
The replacements on YouTube on the new
yeah,
Ogden Cinema channel, huh?
yeah, go to there. Um, and actually, so we did a screening of Pulp Fiction the other day, and I hadn't seen it in a hot minute. I think it's one of those movies where like when you just have seen it something so many times, like you kind of for I don't think you I just didn't realize I hadn't seen it in a while because I just know all the parts.
Yeah.
And then like by watching it, I realized just how much of it, how much of Married and Loving It is kind of pulled a little bit from Pulp Fiction. Like so, like Brandy turned to me and she's like, you should break your film up into chapters, and things like that. And it's like yeah, that's Married and Loving It. Married and Loving It is broken into different chapters with cue cards and in front of each one, or what was some other stuff I thought of? I was just going like, God, I love this movie, and I love and also because it's out of order, and and Married and Loving It is also like told out of order. You know, kind of end like it ends where it begins, or begins where it ends, kind of thing. Um, and so sometimes I see these movies, and I'm like, God damn, I wish I did something like that. And then I do remember that there's been opportunities, and we have done something like that. I'm like, oh, you do that. Actually, that's right. Like, you see a movie, like I said, where I was trying to think of another movie. It might have been maybe when I rewatched Dead Ringers probably about 8 months ago, and a movie that you bought me. Um, and I was going like, God, I'd love to do a movie where there's like the same actors playing two different people. And then I go like, but luckily we have. So we pulled that trick. So yeah. But,
It's time to up the ante though and do the Raising Cain and play three different characters in the same movie.
yes.
uh, well, yeah, no, it's interesting, and I mean, it's fascinating. It's something that still like gets brought up, like one of the better, like one of the best examples, Social Network, right? Like
Yeah.
what Fincher did there is outstanding with the like use of I don't know, like a fake double, right? Because you know Army Hammer is only one person.
Yeah.
Sinners is the same way. The you know Michael B. Jordan's playing twins, and there are shots in that where you're just like, man, like there's the obvious ones where it's like a dirty over the shoulder. And it's like, yeah, we're cheating, like they're cheating like we did in the Replacements. There's a moment where it's a two shot of the two brothers, Michael B. Jordan playing himself, leaning up against a truck, and then at one point the one lights up a cigarette and then hands it to the other one, and then he picks it up and starts smoking it, and it's like, man.
Well,
I don't know if it's a replacement or they shoot it twice, but either way, like just absolutely, yeah, it's incredible. Like, it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, like Alien Covenant is by no means like the best movie ever made, or not even. It's not even a great alien movie to a degree, but like, um, there's like Michael Fassbender's playing two different Davids at the same time. There's a moment where he's like doing he's using a flute, and then in the same shot hands the flute to the other one, and the other one grabs it, and they kind of go back and forth for a second. I remember seeing that in theaters and thinking, I was like, man, that's actually really wild that they're able to do that in one shot without cutting. Because the way you would typically do it is be obviously like you'd film me, a plate of me, and I go like, oh, and I hand like this, and then on the other end there's just a hand coming in, handing it to again me or whichever,
Yeah,
right? So it was to see him, or you might, you could maybe cheat it where it's like somebody puts an object down, keep the camera in one spot, right? You can have where someone puts the object down, the other person picks the object up. But I don't know, it's been a minute since I saw Back to the Future too, so I'd have to go back where Michael J. Fox is playing like his whole family, his whole future family while they're sitting down eating dinner. And I don't recall if any one of them is actually like handing something to the other person, but I'd have to go back and look at it. So yeah,
yeah.
I check that out.
I mean, it's the other thing is like with computers, like we can get really precise with camera movement, placement, and replication, right? Versus what they were able to do, but in the past. But it's still, I don't know. It's just incredible, really. But it's interesting to see. Like, I watched that video and then I went and saw. I did go see Sinners, and it's. I think the one thing that they talked about in that video that I keep referencing, and I'll try to probably put it as a comment in the link for this video. But they talk about the intention of shot choices and planning it out, right? Not just like shooting. Like, we joked a lot. Like, we even worked with filmmakers where it was like, yeah, we'll just fix it in post. Yes, fix it in
Yeah.
post everything. But it's also like shoot it 8K with the intent we're gonna crop it to 4K and cut out whatever we don't want, right? Like, so you don't actually know where your shadows should be and all that. But there's a lot of moments in Sinners where you can feel the intentionality, not just of that type of shot, but lighting plays a huge part in that movie, and there's a lot of really just there's a lot of texture to that movie, a lot of shadows, and it's really well done, and it's intentional. And I know that not only by watching the movie, but after I got done watching Sinners, I was so jazzed about it. Unfortunately, my wife couldn't join me, but afterwards, I was like, I want to see this, watch it with me. And Ryan Coogler has like a 15-minute video that he recorded and put out where he talks about the projection and the film stock for Sinners, and they filmed it on 15 sprocket IMAX 70 millimeter.
Yeah.
So they filmed it as big as they possibly could. And he talked about like where you can see it projected. It's only like 10 theaters, right? And it's
Uh-huh.
another 10 theaters that are showing it on actual film stock. But
Yeah.
like they filmed that entire movie with IMAX in mind and then understood that they were going to be cropping a certain point of it to be like anamorphic, I
Mhm.
believe. But he goes through the whole thing and it's like, man, what he planned out. Uh, yeah, it's incredible that he was able to film it on IMAX and then also just go ahead and film like that he can break it down so thoroughly. And I'm sure, like, as I'm sure, like going to film school, I'm sure, like it's it's the jazzy stuff that you guys teach us non film school nerds, right? That love the craft, but like incredible to hear how much love went into making that movie, and I'm really glad to see one of my favorite young filmmakers like find success
Mhm.
with that movie because yeah, for those who haven't seen it yet, worth seeing. Highly highly recommend it. Like, not to overtalk it. I don't think it's perfect,
Hmm.
but I think it's really awesome, and there's a lot of interesting stories that come out of like Ryan Coogler's journey because of that. I mean, I've seen his movies all the way back to I remember Fruitvale Station from Big Sundance and picking it up and being blown away by that movie, and then Creed being blown away. Like, you're gonna make a Rocky movie that doesn't star Rocky and make it good. And Black Panther is one of the like last like super salt like Marvel has some still like solid movies, but they put out so many movies at this point. Like, it's one of the last like really good ones was the Black Panther movie. I didn't see the second one, but his stuff is just his stuff is solid, and that he's found success. Like, man, I think it's an awesome story.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. Just remember to show those. Do you have Apple TV?
I don't, but I can give a trial. And
Oh, okay. Seth Rogen's show, The Studio,
yeah, yeah,
fantastic.
yeah.
Um, and I think that I debate with Brandy, and I have this conversation about like, is it really? I mean, it's shot really well. Is it? Do I love it so much because it's about the movie industry, and I love movies, and so I get what everything they're saying? Like, or would it, like, if you were a non-movie person, like, would the show still be as exciting as it is for when I watch it? Um, but a lot of shots are all in one take. A lot of scenes are all one take, and they have an episode called The Oneer, which they shoot in a oneer,
Huh.
and it's like 30 minutes. And I don't know if they stitched it or however they did it, but but in the episode, Seth Rogen, he goes to visit some of the famous people in the show are playing a characterized version of themselves. Like Zac Efron is in the show as Zac Efron. Like Martin Scorsese's in the show as Martin Scorsese, and
Mhm.
then there's like Seth Rogen's obviously not playing Seth Rogen. He's playing a completely fictional character. But like in this one, he goes to like Sarah Polley's directing a movie that he's producing, and he shows up for the day that they're shooting their oneer in the movie. And as the guy who's kind of like there, he's half like fucking it up the whole time. But the entire episode is also shot in a oneer. But it's about how she's trying to shoot a oneer, and it's really creative. It's really good. I think there's 7 episodes out right now. It comes out on Wednesdays, and every one of them is really funny and just really well done. Like it made like watching it made you want to go do a one or just made really kind of made you think about like, okay, next time we're doing a scene, that scene's like 5 pages. We're just gonna block it, and you're gonna do the 5 pages, and then we'll move on with our then we'll move on, and it just looks better too. So I
Yeah.
can't. Yeah. So I though I haven't been to the movies in a minute. I have been watching Studio. I really liked it. I also finished the second season of Silo, and I thought that the last 4 episodes were directed like shit, and I did not like that. The last 4 episodes are directed by the same person, and every time her name came up, I was like, another one of them. and then and I was really blown away by the like lack of by some of the choices where just as everything like just as the tension tightens, we cut to some other shit where the tension is not even in that scene. It's like Rebecca Ferguson's character is like drowning, and instead of just playing it out to see if she like comes back up for air or whatever, you just cut to these other people who are talking in a room, and then you come back to her and she's trying to tread water, and it's like just stay with it, just stay with her for a minute and let the tension go. Oh man, get to the talking people later. But anyways, so I haven't seen movies in cinema in a minute, but well, they're new. Like I said, when I was in LA, I saw a screening of Kill Bill at the New Beverly. So
Awesome.
I did go to the Vista Theater as well, which is a theater that's also owned by Quentin Tarantino. And attached to the island of the theater is a place called Pam's Coffee, and um, it's Pam. It's like everything's all Jackie Browned out, and it's Pam like Pam Greer. Damn, I don't have my coffee mug sitting with me, but like my coffee mug, even I bought one. It says like a coffee cup by Quentin Tarantino, and it's got 70s Pam Grier with like the afro and everything. And they were playing. There's multiple TVs that had. They were like the TV VHS combos. They were playing like old Dick Tracy episodes and shit like that. And everything was playing on VHS. And there's a little sitting spot where we watched for like 20 minutes of Fistful of Dollars playing on VHS uh, while we were there,
That's awesome.
and eating, and you can get cereal and coffee. So I walk, but the Vista Theater we didn't have a screening for, but like we had flights later that day. So like this is my one chance to kind of see the theater, but they were closing it off because they were doing some kind of interview thing with Tarantino for like the next day. And so like my father-in-law, who's also a star in the film Comics and Chocolate, he's kind of notorious for just being able to sneak his way into places and always just going like, yeah, who's running this place? What's the guy's name again? They'll be like, Bob. He's like, yeah, Bob said I could come in here and yada yada. And he does that kind of shit. So like so I just walked over to the Vista, which is right next door to it, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going in. And I just beelined my way in, and then had that look on my face like I was like looking for somebody, or I knew what I was doing or whatever. And after I passed a couple people and I kind of walked back, because I was looking around, I took a couple photos, and the theater is beautiful. This lady stopped me. She's like, "Hey," she's like, "Sorry, can I help you?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm just part of the thing." And she's like, "Oh, you must be on Jack's crew." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." She's like, "Okay, yeah. Sometimes we just get weird people who walk in here." And yeah, so
Yeah, you do.
yeah, I know. There's a part of me that was like, I could start unloading the trucks at this point. Like, you might accidentally find me on the payroll. Like, so
It's that confidence sometimes to get you in the door, man.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So but it was fun. It's cool. It was a cool place. I'd like to go back. Unfortunately, there's not a ton of other, or not to my knowledge, there's not a lot of other like things around it though that would be um like within walking distance of going to see if you like
It's
like
kind of you show up to see it, not really like happen upon it.
yeah, yeah. Like I mean, even like where the New Beverly's at, like it's in a cool spot. It's just that it's not like it's not like there's that there, and then there's like 8 other historical things around it. It's kind of like I mean, Casa Vega's down the street, but like there's like a Ralph's and some other things. But um, we always take a moment to eat at Musso and Frank's, which is the restaurant that the Al Pacino scene from Quentin Tarantino, like Al DiCaprio meets Al Pacino at Musso and Frank's, old historic restaurant. We did. I saw this. I saw it on Instagram. There's this bookstore, Larry's Books, Larry something something. I want to talk shit on him, but like, and I saw it on Instagram that they have like movie scripts there, and so I've been waiting to go, and so, and I thought to myself, I was like, man, when I get there, I want to buy a script, and I was thinking that they had like scripts like like maybe a warehouse closed down or something like that, or just scripts that just kind of get handed down, like Brandy's dad, having worked on Con Air when they shot it here in Utah, he still has like a day script from his
That's
time
awesome.
the day that they shot. So I thought of stuff like that, and then when I got there, I was kind of disheartened to see that they're doing this thing that we all do in our basements, and which is just like they're basically just printing the screenplays off. I like the printer was sitting right there, and it was just, and then they're trying to sell me a copy of Reservoir Dogs for $30, or no, they were like 15. But I was like, it'd be cooler if it was signed or something else at least. But they had a lot of old books on history of Hollywood and other things that were. We spent a good amount of time in there. Um, but I did find, and I've never seen it before, but they had stacks of this publications of Orson Welles' last screenplay that he wrote, but he died before he ever made the movie. And so it was published and bound, even though I didn't have a barcode on the back of it though. But I was like, this is interesting. So in a sense, I did walk away with screenplay. I bought that book. Um, I just wasn't in the same way I thought it was going to be as far as screenplays go. But so I did some of that too. You know,
That's awesome.
I do sometimes I do touristy shit, but for the most part, it's like find. Well, you've been to L. You know, I've gone to LA together too. You know, we're like hunting down movie locations, not the
Yeah.
ones shoot at, but ones where they've already shot the other good shit at, and now I want right.
It's kind of like it's a different way to see LA. Like I highly recommend it. Like because you see LA in a different light. You just all the different terrain for as big of a city as it is and as crowded as it can be, and it can get a bit of a bad rap too. Like it's a really just interesting way. Like there's a reason why they made movies down in Los Angeles, just the different types of terrain that's in the area, the quick accessibility and I don't know, you're on one street and it's Brooklyn and you're on another street and it's, Surftown, USA. Like there's all sorts of cool stuff down there. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I keep thinking about going back down that way. When I went and took the kids to Disney, we did a little bit of sightseeing, and then when we'd go to certain places, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's Last Action Hero," or "This is from," movies that they know.
Yeah,
And and in the Pacific Northwest, like for those like Astoria is a really big one, and it's well celebrated in the area as well, where that's where Goonies was filmed, and like the Goonies house, which is apparently being restored to its 1980s glory. Um, a Kindergarten Cop, Short Circuit, like just being able to show the kids movie. Oh, Point Break, one of my favorite hikes in the world. When they are supposed to be in Australia, it's actually the beach from Point Break, which is not too far from this beach. That's as close as I'll get. But yeah, I mean, the movie magic and sharing with them, like, oh, you've seen this, this is this, and we've even like looked at it together and stuff. It just, I don't know, it makes it exciting. But I have a recommendation for. I don't know if you've seen it, so maybe it's a recommendation, or maybe we shoot the shit about it. But did you ever see Spielberg's last movie, The Fablemans?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I it took me forever. I think it came out 3 years ago. I finally got around to watching it, and holy shit, man! Like I enjoyed. I watched it by myself, and I was kind of like, damn it, I'm gonna have to watch this movie again with my wife and possibly even my kids, because I want to be able to talk with them about it. But I can talk with you about it. Obviously, it's been a while since you've seen it, but
Hmm.
man, I for Spielberg, I in watching that movie, what a return to form.
Yeah,
Like finally,
yeah.
I felt like when I got done watching it, I was like, he had something personal to say again. And so that
Hmm.
movie, which is essentially a fictionalized retelling of his life, right? Sounds mundane on the surface, but watching that movie, like we're talking about the oneers, talking about the
Hmm.
shadows and the artistic
Yeah,
choices and like shooting stuff, like what a interesting movie. And also like what a love letter to as I watched it, I thought too about like I don't have the passion to go hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt to make movies, right? We've saved up and then made movies and whatnot, or paid to make movies and then you know finish the rest of it a year later when we got the rest of the money or whatever it was. But like I think much kind of like Hugo was for Scorsese, Fableman's was for Spielberg, where it's you could just see somebody trying to explain the passion and the trials of being an artist. And I think it's
hmm,
for those who haven't seen it, you should see the Fableman's really well done movie from a director that I hope makes more movies like that.
yeah. No, yeah, for sure. Like and there's been the the few movies leading into that one. So you and I have often said like there was Munich, and then kind of like after that, like there's kind of this loss. And I've still been a fan, but I haven't seen every one of his movies. Like I didn't see Bridge of Spy, and I didn't see the one he did with Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, where they're the newspaper editors.
I like that
Uh,
movie. Yeah.
okay, so that one I didn't see, but like the ones that, but I mean, I did send Lincoln, and you and I have been pretty, or at least I'll say I was pretty critical of that movie. Um, but then like I saw West Side Story, and I know he was trying to make that movie for a long time, but like I did not like it. And
Mm.
Ready Player One was okay. So yeah, so like so there's been just kind of a healthy drop off where I just wasn't really excited for a Steven Spielberg movie. Um, and yeah, The Fablemans was yeah, like you said, like a return to form. Like yeah, it's like you're like um, there's these moments, and it was kind of always prevalent earlier in his career, where it's like where he's trying to like for instance when he makes Hook. Now I like Hook a lot. I'm glad he made it. Um, but is it like the most passionate movie he could have made for him, right? Like, and I think there was a moment there where he turned down Harry Potter because he was like, well, Harry Potter's gonna be successful anyways. Like, it doesn't need me to direct it to make it successful. So it's already such a big hit. And so I think that somewhere in there, like, because like, oh, like he did the BFG and it was all right. Like I wasn't a fan. My kids liked it a lot, and so it did feel like, man, there's a moment when he was making these. Like I would even say like Jurassic Park was probably a very, we talked about that earlier. Jurassic Park, like more of a passion project than some of his other movies that he's done.
Yeah.
Um, After Munich, and Munich kicks ass so much because it was such a personal project that he was invested. Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, and then even in like Catch Me If You Can and Minority Report. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
I
but
think
Phil,
too
it's glad
the
it was good to see it.
the the last couple movies of his that I saw, I think the thing that I would say, like, I even liked War. I didn't love War Horse, but I liked War Horse. But I think
Yeah,
there's a period there where it's like Lincoln. I think is one of the best examples of it. Like Daniel Day Lewis's performance actually is outstanding. That's part of that movie. That's why
yeah,
that movie's worth seeing. But it gets to the point for that part of his career where the movies that you see are worth seeing for the performance of the actors rather than like the meat of the story.
yeah.
And there's some gems in there. Like I think it's post Munich. Adventures of Tintin, I think, is one of his better movies of that era.
Oh, like
Like,
that.
and
Yeah.
it's animated,
Mhm.
and it's a blast. But
Yeah.
it also you forget that it's Spielberg because it doesn't feel like Spielberg. He has his wonder in there that's a lot of fun, but
Yeah.
it's also animated, so you could do an 85-minute wonder
Yeah.
and whatnot. But like I love that movie. I think it's great. But I think, like you said, BFG, not as much fun of a like. My kids enjoyed it as well, but it's not as engaging of a movie. Like, um, I did not. Bridge of Spies, I think, is about the only one I haven't seen because I did see the post, and I liked the performances. But as far as like goes, it's like it's a movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I got out of Fablemans and I was like, fuck. Yeah, and then I know I'd read about it and whatnot too, but a lot of especially earlier in his career, right? Like E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Jurassic Park to a certain extent. Like there's a lot of like children or Hook. Hook's a good example
So,
too. Like the
yeah. But
missing father figure, like
his
abandonment
parents
with children and
divorced and stuff like
parents.
that. Like yeah, his parents' divorce like comes up big into his earlier
Yeah.
movies. Um, yeah, it's almost like the way Hitchcock would portray police officers because he just has such a jaded feeling about how they treated him as a child and things, and so and it comes through. But when he like so when he gets to like the BFG, it just doesn't feel like that. I feel like those the heart. Yeah, I'm sure he's. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure he probably feels passionate about it, but there's kind of a moment, like I said, like with Hook, like where Hook is a good movie. I like Hook, of course, but I saw it also as a child. Like, but like he almost had no business making Hook. Like he could have gone and made something else. Like,
I mean,
and
am I sad he made it? No, I'm
oh,
not sad he made it.
I wouldn't take it back. Yeah,
I mean, every movie is its own place and time. It's
hmm
just like you think about again, like performance wise, like man, Dennis Hoffman's a lot of fun to watch in that. Bob Hoskins is a lot of fun to watch in it, and so is Robin Williams. Like he's always a blast. But yeah, I don't know. Like it just felt like it felt like man, now I am excited for if his name's on a movie that he's directing. I'm
yeah,
excited about it
yeah,
again. You know, for
yeah,
I had that feeling that I would really enjoy Fablemans. It was just a matter of like when, like a movie like that. I can watch a lot of movies about a lot of subjects, but a movie like that is like I think I kind of have to be in our headspace for that type of movie. But um, but yeah, well, it's anyway. Well, yeah. So I was just curious. I'm glad you saw it. And I'm glad I'm not crazy just imagining that that movie is as good as it is.
yeah.
Um, man, there's so many things. I think uh, I watched a movie that I recommend. It is an acid trip of a fucking movie. And honestly, our uh, friend that's no longer with us, Jason Costley, I watched that movie and thought of him because I went, man, this would have been his type of movie. There's a movie out there called Mad God. It's actually directed by Phil Tippett, and I guess he started it 30 years ago, and then it took him, they just filmed it on his own but it's all stop motion, like we were talking about. It does not really have like a narrative thread to that movie. It's more just the movie's an experience. It's more avant-garde, like some of
hmm
the things you used to talk about in like college and whatnot that you'd check out, but like it is like sometimes it's also what you need, right? Like I do love Fablemans. Hell, uh, I I enjoyed the hell out of Sinners. I've enjoyed like I laughed my ass off with my kids during Minecraft, and that's a mindless ass movie. Like I'm not above enjoying different art forms, but Mad God, a little bit more challenging, but holy schmoly, like what they did with stop motion puppets and animation, like really, really groundbreaking, but also very much like I was like, man, this is what like pair this up with like Dickhead Dave or Sextile She-Bitch, man. Like we can take this to some new levels. It made me think. And this, I wish Jason Costa was here to talk about
Yeah.
Mad God, but it's also from everything's kind of circular. I got onto that because I was watching that Phil Tippett documentary, and um, Joe Dante actually talked about like he's interviewed, and I guess he was part of the crew at some point in the career, but he talked about how he's like Mad God is like my favorite thing Phil Tippett's done, and it's just if you like stop motion animation and just I don't know, it reminds me of that movie that Salvador Dali and Buñuel did together, um, Unchained, whatever it is. Like it's just
Yeah.
an experience, and it's rad as hell if you have the patience and the time.
Check that out.
Yeah,
Check that
but
out.
yeah, man. Well, we covered a lot of good stuff. I know it's getting late. Is there anything else you want to bring up?
Uh,
Oh,
script.
Damn, you let me forget, and you didn't tell me to shut up and start talking about the important parts, man.
No, it's all good, man. So I set out goal over the years. So we shot Married and Loving It quite a while ago. And as time goes on, it always kind of weighs on me that it was like it's like I can only do so many like podcast interviews talking about a movie that was made 4 years ago. Um, and or is actually released now 5 years ago, but we shot it a year and a half before that. And in the meantime, I've started many scripts and feature length screenplays, and just haven't gotten to the end of them. And it's not to say I don't love some of the other stories. It's just wasn't able to maybe make it all the way through. Um, and maybe I'll come back to them. But in the meantime, I did set out a goal for myself. It was like one of the weeks in January. I said, all right, what's 10 weeks from now? And when that 10-week mark hits, like I'm gonna write every day. And if you look at the New Ogden Cinema YouTube channel, which you should anyways, um, for not you, but but like, um, and I was like posting like Art of War kind of stuff, and because I was like, okay, it's time to sit down and write every day, write every morning, and really start. Well, now that I write every day, and I mean, but I really tried on almost every day, and what I came up with it is now my new script. I call it Left for Dead. It is a post-apocalyptic western. Um, it is. I looked at some other scripts, some inspirations like Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, Apocalypto, um, and No Country for Old Men as well. Um, and the reason why I looked at those scripts is so there's a movie called fuck, I can't remember the name of it. It's Rob Redford film. He's out in the water all by himself.
All is lost.
All is lost. The movie has almost no dialogue throughout the entire thing. Well, my script comes in and I've got zero dialogue until the last little bit of the pages. So it's a chase movie. It's kind of like Apocalypto to a certain degree, where someone's being chased the entire time. But the concept is that there's a main character. What's odd is that sometimes I write scripts and I don't give characters names. So like Ray and Loving It was just husband and wife. There's no need to really figure out whether or not one was called Brittany or Dale. It doesn't matter. So in this case, this story is about a guy. I call him the Drifter, and he's in this again. It's a post-apocalyptic western, so he's by himself. And then kind of like that moment in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid when they start getting chased by the LaForge character or the type of whatever it is they just can't seem to escape it. So in this case, this guy is realizing that somebody's tracking him and somebody's following him, and it's just resilient and not stopping until a point to a degree where it becomes into an explosive, like yeah, explosive gun battle, uh, fighting, and plus also you're in a world where there's traps and there's characters that are kind of Mad Max-ish, and there's snakes and wild dogs and shit like that. So my goal is I would love to shoot some of it, so we're gonna shoot all in Utah. But my goal would be I would love to find some spots that are like where they shot some other historical films in Utah, um, such as like like Monument Valley, where they shot something like uh, Stagecoach or The Searchers or Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. And the last part of it, I mean, I really would hope to be able to shoot it here. There's a city in Utah called Helper. It's an old mining town. We actually had the Convicts and Chocolate had its premiere at this film festival in Helper City, and it's really close to a lot of places where they shot some of Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. And I'd love to
That's
be able to
awesome.
shoot in those same spots. But now this story of a guy being hunted, and that's kind of why there's also no dialogues because what he doesn't have like a partner to talk to, and I'm kind of fine with that. So But I would love for it to have that same feeling of like in No Country for Old Men, where Javier Bardem is basically caught up to Josh Brolin, and um, the Bardem like blows the lock out of the hotel room key and it hits Josh Brolin in the chest. And then from there, as he like jumps out the window and bullets are just coming in, and he jumps in and he gets inside this other guy's truck, and bullets are just flying. Like you can't really see Javier Bardem shooting at him, but you know he's like the bullets are just coming in out of nowhere, and it's just brutal and violent. And that's what my hope is for the movie. So I've got a good cast. A lot of people from our short film Comics and Chocolate. I've already said yes to it. BJ Wimpy being the large piece, he's playing the drifter, and because also there's no dialogue, so we're gonna go out and shoot this fucker, and we don't need to worry too much about recording a shit ton of
You're just
sound.
gonna do it. You're just gonna do it in post. I like it.
Dude, all yeah. But depending on when this episode drops, we are going to be we're finally doing it. We're going balls to the wall on a crowdfunding campaign, and try to raise some money so that we can pay actors, pay the crew, pay people, so that we can. So when we go travel to some of these places, we have money to like stay in hotels, and we're not all like kind of bunked right on top of each other, and also just comfortably, so that we can eat as well. Because when you take people from one city and then to say, hey, come with me for the weekend, we're gonna go shoot over here. Like you don't want everybody out of their own pockets, kind of a thing. You want to be able to provide it per diem. And we did that with when we shot Convicts and Chocolate, because we shot some of it out in West Wendover. So took a little of that hot sauce money and that I was talking about earlier. So when you buy Tasty as Fuck hot sauce, you're supporting the movies basically, and 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 that we were able to give people like a little bit of a stipend. It wasn't much, but it was at least hopefully it eased the pain of how much gas they spent getting out there. And then because we frequently go to Wendover, we were able to secure like some free rooms and things like that, so that people had lodging as well in case they didn't want to drive back. Um, so that's that's kind of the hope there. I did after I got done. I haven't see you and I we haven't spoken in about two days, but in those 2 days, I I shared the script with Brandy has read it over 3 times, and even as recently as the other day, she came up with an idea that she was like, "Oh, you should do that." Like, um, this other idea of a smoking thing. I was like, "Oh yeah, you're right." So there's things that are kind of still being added, but one of the things I've noticed over the last couple of productions that we've done is that sometimes, like Steven Spielberg, actually, I saw an interview where he talked about this. Like, some things are just organic. The script is kind of always organic, and it's going to be slowly changing a little bit as you go. I did do a coffee. I meet with Daniel Benelli and BJ Wimpy fairly frequently for coffee, and they read it. And we did the whole thing that we did, even with like the Winnie Feed of movie that I started working on editing the script just a little bit recently as well. And I have a goal to make that or to do something with it. Um, we spent all that time on it, but like when we and I used to meet face to face, we sat down with the scripts, and we talk about like, hey, what's working, what's not working, and if it's not working, let's just be honest, it's not working. And there's some parts that I knew in this script, it's not working, but I had to do something because I needed to get off of page 40 and into page 42. So you sometimes it's like I wrote him into a corner. I don't know how to get him the fuck out of that corner. And so we brainstorm of how to do that. And so, but if it's done well, and I'm a talented son of a bitch, so it's gonna be, but should be hopefully be an intense movie, and something that's very different in that sense of like I guess the movie I did before that was a lot of talking heads, and this movie has no talking in it, so two different spectrums. So
I think it sounds like you've probably already done it, but I do think like just as a reminder, and then sparks of thought as well as like just doing table reads as well, like helps so much
mhm.
in hearing like Oh God, I've repeated myself, but I don't see it because it's like 2 pages back or whatever, or just like it doesn't flow the way it should because whatever. And I remember it was humbling as hell to go through, and I remember we, I was grateful for the experience, but there were definitely some people that were less professional than they should have been in the event. It was what it was, but that table read for my first feature film, way ahead of time, where as we were going through it, I got to this monologue where I wrote it initially as a play, and then on a play it probably would work like having a longer monologue, right? Because you're in the moment, you're getting sucked in as the audience. But
Yeah.
as the like sitting thinking about what it would look like on film, as I heard it, I was like, oh no, and that monologue, like I love how it turned out. In fact, like in the middle of my feature film is this like is my Terrence Malick moment, right? Like I have a 2 or 3 minute short film basically that she talks about the ideals of being a parent and having a family and those things. And I love what we did to break up because it was also a talking head film, and I tried to make it as interesting as I could.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of it, so I'd say I succeeded. But I think one of the things that I heard though in that table read was like that initial monologue was like two, maybe even three times as long. And as we were going through, um, I was embarrassed. And I'm pretty sure I turned red. If I didn't, in my mind, I did. And I started just crossing stuff. I was like, all right, cool. And eventually, like, I kept crossing out to the point where it's like, you're just going to have to revise this. And if I wouldn't have heard it out loud, I would have got to the day of and been like, all right, let's do this. And then gone, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I think it really helped. And I think the other part of that too was we didn't have extensive rehearsals, but we did do one day of a table, like a cast table read much later after I'd rewritten the script and we were gearing up for production. I did do a table read with my actors, and I sat and got to hear them go through it and again refined a little bit more. It wasn't like rewriting the whole script, but it was like, oh, that's so clunky, or this doesn't make sense to the actor. So I get it. Like I need to refine that so they know what the hell I'm trying to emote. I think those things are important, and there's actually in networking out, much like what you're doing with going to festivals and whatnot. There's actually a bunch of writers groups out this way, and there's one that meets once a month to do table reads in Seattle, and so I'm gonna head over to Seattle, I think this month